Good morning, everyone. Making sure my mic is on this time so you guys can hear me. If you're watching and you don't hear me, please leave me a comment by going to facebook.com or excuse me, streamyard.com/Facebook. That way I can see your comments. And if you just say I can't hear you, then we can make adjustments. But I believe you should be able to hear me. And my hair looks like it's leaning to the side. Anyway, I am Coach Linda. For those of you that don't know who I is Coach Linda Hillman. And this is 100 Days of Purpose. And we are talking about having a life of or living a life of purpose and understanding that we are people of purpose. And what I've been doing over the past what I guess is 91 days or something like that, 92 days, is I've been talking about purpose and how that fits in our life. And then just over the last few days I've been talking about fear of the unknown, fear that keeps us paralyzed, and how to overcome that. And then I realized that the days that I talked about fear, which was last Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, there was no sound. So it was recording, but there was no sound. And so I'm going to re-record those and put those up so you guys will have that information. But today we're going to talk about how to plan for uncertainty. Because that's a lot of where the fear comes from, the fear of the unknown, the fear of being rejected, the fear of failure, the fear of trying something and it not being successful. And some of us have the fear of success, right? We don't want to succeed because we don't know if people are going to change how they feel about us. We don't know what people are going to think or this, that, and the other. And so the uncertainty of it all is what really keeps us from moving forward. And so today I want to spend a little bit of time talking about why planning becomes more important when you are faced with uncertainty. And I believe that you got to understand this in order to know how to plan. And so we're going to talk about how to plan for uncertainty, but we got to understand why planning is important. Because if you think that it's not important enough to give it your time and energy and the space, then you won't do it. And you got to see the benefit of it, right? And so it's easy for us to continue doing things the way that we've been doing it, but how is that working out for you? If you are doing things that are falling to the ground and dying and not really reaping any return on investment, then why do you keep investing? And why do you keep investing your time? Why do you keep investing your energy? Why do you keep investing your attention to that thing? And many of us, that's what we do. We because it's comfortable to us, because it's something we know, we kind of know the outcome. We just want to keep going on, and hopefully this time it'll work, and hopefully this time it'll work. And what I call that is the rat wheel or the hamster wheel. You're on the hamster wheel, you're running, but you ain't going nowhere. Okay, you're putting all of this energy and all of this effort into it, and you've seen the hamster. They just go, they just feet just going, and the little wheel is going around and around and around, and they are not going anywhere. There's the other part that talks about the carrot and the stick. So you got the carrot and the stick, right? But you never can get to the carrot. Right? You're always getting the stick. You never get the carrot. And so let's get off the hamster wheel. Let's stop playing the, carrot and stick game, and let's really become people of purpose. Let's really get passionate about what it is that we're supposed to be doing and understanding why we're supposed to do it. And then let's plan for success. So with all that said, whether it's financial, emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, social, the relationships that you have with people, relational, vocational, professional, whatever know you want to go. I want you to know that it takes planning. So if you're taking notes, you want to put across your page in capital letters, bold capital letters, planning. Planning is essential. Planning is vital. Planning is the key to success. Because if you don't plan, then what? You plan to fail. So let's just have a straightforward conversation. And let's understand that planning becomes more important in times of uncertainty. It becomes more important when you don't know what's going to happen. Okay? I also want to talk a little bit about, and I'm going to talk just a little bit about this because I may go more into this. Well, no, I'm going to do it today. I was going to save it for tomorrow, but I think I want to do it today because it deals with more of why we should plan than it does with the plan itself. And so tomorrow I'm going to be talking about the plan itself, but today let's understand why we need it. So there is a thing called black swan. And this is more of something that they attribute to economics and financial, but it's also when you understand its concept, you can apply it to every area of your life. And the black swan, there is a topic in financial, and you guys know that I'm a financial coach, so I read about finances so I can better teach my clients on how to grow their money and make their money work for them so they can stop working for money. That's the goal, that's the intention, and that's what I do, and that's what I'm doing in my own life. And I'm seeing the fruits of my labor coming about, and I'm beginning to see my money work for me as opposed to me trying to chase the almighty dollar, right? I'm not bowing down to the almighty dollar anymore. I've learned how to make the dollar bow down to me. I'm in control of this thing. But I also know that I got to stick with the plan. And there is a thing called the emergence of the black swan event. And the uncertainty we all face over the past few years, not just in the pandemic, but even before that, it's been kind of up and down. And there's a lot of uncertainty that has come amongst us because of the globalization of our growing interconnectedness, right? We are more connected with the world than we were in prior decades. And so the more that we become connected and the more that we have opportunities made available to us, the more uncertain times come along and the more we have to worry about what we don't know. Okay? And there's just a lot of globalization going on right now. Let's look at what the pandemic did, not just to America, but to the world, because we're so interconnected. And so these factors have contributed to the impact of the black swan as I think his last name is Talib. I think that's how you say it. As he wrote in his book called The Black Swan. Okay. The high impact of highly improbable things occurring in your life. That means the high impact of uncertainty happening in your life is pretty low. Devastation doesn't come around every single day. And if it's coming around in your life every single day, you got to ask yourself, what am I attracting that all this devastation has hit me? Because you should only have one good gut punch a decade or two, right? So there shouldn't be every day of your life, something is taking your breath away, making you feel that you're spinning out of control. The Black Swan event is an event that occurs like the pandemic. No one really saw the pandemic coming, but when it got here, they saw how it was kind of unavoidable, right? There, the Great Depression. No one maybe saw it coming. There might have been some hints and some breadcrumbs saying, look, this may happen. And some people caught on to it and made some adjustments prior to. But most of it, when we look at it, it kind of hit the world. It kind of hit America and knocked us off our feet. And it knocked us off our feet because there wasn't a whole lot of planning for that. And things that occur in your life will knock you off your feet and get you off balance and get your mind spinning out of control, because it was something that was not planned for. It was something that occurred, and maybe you saw, now looking back, hindsight is 2020, right? So now you can look back and say, okay, that I should have made that decision back then, or I should have made this decision at this point in my life. But because you didn't have all the facts then like you have now, that was a hard decision for you to call at that moment. And at that moment, you thought you made the right decision, but you got a plan for the uncertain. You got a plan for it. And even though you don't know what it looks like, what it smells like, what it's going to feel like, you've got to say, I need to have a contingency plan if everything goes to hell, right? I need to have a contingency plan if everything starts to fall apart, if things don't go my way. If that one little incident, that one little decision is going to knock me clear off my feet, I got to have a plan of how to get me back in track, get me back on track, get me back in the game, and get me moving again. Okay? So that's what the term Black Swan is derived from. It's the previously held assumption that all swans were white, and until the discovery of black swans in Australia. And when they discovered the black swans in Australia, the concept is not really a new concept. It just has a new name, black swan, right? So we've got to understand that, and we got to see it in our finances, in our emotions, in our spiritual walk with God, in our everyday interaction with people. Things happen. They say sugar honey iced tea hits the fan, right? So we've got to understand that. We've got to know that and have a contingency plan for when it does, so it doesn't take us by surprise, even though we didn't know what form it was going to take. And I hope I'm making sense here. Okay. So even though you don't know what form it's going to take, you got to have a plan for whatever may come. Okay. In the economic world, it was known as an outliner before it was a black swan. But you want to understand that these situations sit outside of the range of normal. They're not everyday occurrences. They're outside of, the pandemic was outside of normal. It shut the world down, right? It was like an apocalypse, right? And so that's this kind of stuff you got to understand and know how to plan for. So let's define what a black swan a little bit more. Let's go in a little bit more detail of what a black swan event would look like, or what it would feel like. So Talib describes the probability of occurrences of such events is low based on experience. Secondly, even though the probability is low, when one does come along, the impact is significant. Okay, your husband comes home, your spouse comes home, put it this way, your spouse comes home and says, I want a divorce. You thought everything was going fine. Y'all just had date night on Friday night. It's Monday. He comes home, she comes home and says, I'm tired. I want out. Black swan event. He doesn't come home. She doesn't come home every day. Your spouse doesn't come home every day and say, I want out. This is out of the blue. This is something not normal. No one can see these events really coming. But like I said, once they occur, people can see that it was inevitable. It was going to happen. The you can look, hindsight is 2020, and you can see the dots connected to this thing occurring. And even, how do I want to say this? Some Black events or Black Swan events are largely positive. For example, the invention of the internet, the invention of the light bulb, the invention of the airplane, the invention of the telephone, the cell phone. Even, you look at the Twilight and the Harry Potter and the Matrix and all of these big time movies that became phenomena, right? You look at them and you're like, wow, who knew that so many people would love Harry Potter movies? So many people would love the Twilight movies. So many people would love, the Matrix movie. So many people would love The Walking Dead. Who knew? So some Black Swan events are, positive. But there are negative ones that come along. For instance, 9/11, the swine flu, COVID-19, right? They come along. But look at those events and how far in space they were. COVID-19 even knocked Ebola out, right? Remember the Ebola thing that we went through? COVID took that and made that look like ants crawling on the ground, right? And so we got to understand what I'm talking about when I talk about a Black Swan negative event and the significance of that. And you got to compare that to things that may occur in your personal life, because that's what we're talking. We're not just talking financial here. We're talking emotional, mental, spiritual, go through all of the lows, the shows, or whatever you want to say, social, economics, economical, vocational, professional, relationships, all of that. So when you're looking at that, everything is right there in that little bubble, and there can be black swan events that occur even in those areas in your life. So the one thing that must be clear to us is these events can have enormous impacts on our lives. And in a sense, the uncertainty we all face has dramatic and long-lasting effects, especially if we weren't ready for it. So we've got to know how to, in the moment, as we're living our lives, these little small things. The Bible says it this way: it's the little foxes that kill the vine. We're waiting for the big catastrophe to happen, but it's the little things. Those little dots lead to that big failure, right? That big thing that stumps us. But we were dealing with these little foxes, and we're like, oh, I can just do that. Oh, scoot, scoot, scoot. And we thought we had it handled. But the damage was already there, and they weakened us and allowed this big thing to come in. But it's a culmination of everything that has been happening up to that point. And so we've got to learn how to forecast. You know how the weather, when you watch the news, they talk about the weather forecast, and they tell you what type of weather can come or is most likely to happen, and so if they say that there's going to be bad weather, or this is earthquake weather, or tornado weather, or some type, how to plan. Whether it happens or not, how to plan. Understand what I'm saying. Understand what the concept. Understand why it's important that you plan for uncertainty, even though you don't know what the uncertainty is. You've got to understand forecasting. So you look at what's going on right now in your life, in your personal life, in your professional life, in your spiritual life, in your emotional life, in your mental life, in your physical life. You look at what's going on with you, and you start to forecast. Is this leading me to some pandemic in my life, or is this just a little small fox that I need to shoo away and repair here? Okay. And understand this. Before we start talking about planning tomorrow and how to set up a plan and what to do and how to forecast, let me say this. Planning and forecasting is not about trying to be 100% accurate. Okay? Have you ever heard the weatherman say it's going to rain tomorrow, and tomorrow happens and there's no rain? That's why they give you, when you go to websites and you listen to the news and the weather, they'll tell you the precipitation is 12% or 20% or 75% or 89%. And the higher the percentage, the more higher the probability is that it will rain. If it's a 10% chance of rain, most likely we're not going to see any rain. If it's a 30% chance of rain, we may not see rain. But if it's a 50%, there's a 50-50 chance I'm going to carry my umbrella with me. If it's 75%, I'm going to carry my umbrella with me. If it's 99.2%, I'm going to carry my umbrella with me, because it's more likely to rain the higher the percentage goes. And so you've got to understand what planning is and what forecasting is. It's not to be accurate, but it is to have something in place just in case. So planning and forecasting is validation by reasonableness. And what I mean by that is saying that reasonably, this may occur in my life. And because this may occur in my life, it's reasonable that I should have something to counter. Now, if whatever you're looking at is going to be a positive occurrence, you may not need to do a whole lot of counteractive planning. But if it's leading to devastation, you want to be ahead of the game. So that's why you plan, that's why you forecast. And that's why it's important and crucial for you to have those plans in place prior to the event happening. Because it's easy once you're in, well, it's not easy, but what I'm saying is that when you're in it, you then know I gotta get a plan. I gotta plan how to get out of this, right? So, but then you're torn, you're tattered, you're you're distracted, you're concentrating on all of these things that are going on, and the fireworks that's going off, and you can't really think it through. But while you're in this place of pre, it hasn't happened and you don't know if it's going to happen. While you're in that place, that's when you need to have a plan. And I'm not talking about the what if spiral. And I know some of you guys, what's the what if spiral? I'm going to talk about that when I go back to re-record the 4 days that there was no sound, because I talk about the what if spiral in all of those videos. However, the what if spiral is this. You go start saying, what if this happens? Okay, if this bad thing happens, then this bad thing can happen, and then this might happen, then this might happen. What if, what if, what if, what if? And you just start what ifing yourself into fear. That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is that worst case scenario, this is going to happen or could happen, and I want to have something in place already, so when I'm in the heat of the moment, I'm not trying to figure it out. Okay? So planning becomes a way to measure the difference between what was expected and what ultimately happens, and managing any result variant, right? So whatever result occurred because of what just happened, this is what I expected to happen. This is what happened. The difference between that, I got to have a plan for it. If I thought this positive thing was going to happen, but it was a little bit negative, that 50-degree difference, I got to swing back to the positive. And that's where planning comes in. And I can't do that in the moment when I am frustrated and overwhelmed and can't seem to see the forest for the trees. It is the value of living a life of purpose. Planning is that value. Forecasting is that value. It's what's going to ensure that you have a return on your invested time, energy, and money. I mean, just it's what's going to keep you sane in those insane moments. And so that's what you got to think about. That's why it's important to plan. And that's why what I say, I've said on several different occasions, you got to be able to know those calculated risks and be willing to take those calculated risks, because it's all a part of planning and forecasting. It's all a part of, I don't have to be 100% accurate here, but I need to be able to recover if something should occur. So let me end with this. In a highly uncertain environment, the advantages of scenario planning are clear. Since no one base can be regarded as probable, it is necessary to develop plans on the assumption that several different futures are possible, and to focus attention on the underlying drivers of uncertainty. That's why it's important to plan. That's why it's important to understand the environment that you're in and where it is you're trying to get to. And you need to do it strategically, intentionally, on purpose. You need to become self-aware, aware of the things around you, aware of what's on the inside of you, and aware of who's in your life and who's not. Okay. Tomorrow, we're going to talk a little bit more about the plan. And I believe that if you're taking notes and you're really, because I know someone is saying, Linda, you're saying some stuff, and I need you just to give it to me flat out. And again, it's not a flat out thing. It's an individualized process. And so I can't generically speak to generally everyone that's watching and say, this is the plan that's going to work for you. What I can do is give you some scenarios to get your juices flowing, to see, okay, this is my life and this is what I need to do. Okay. I'm doing what I need to do to be successful, to be in the moment, to understand the power of being, to understand the power of planning, to understand the strategicness of being a person of purpose, and intentionally putting my intentions out into the world so the world knows, make room for Linda, because Linda's coming through. It is her intention to come through and to be what it is that she was designed, created, and made to be, and to do it with the spirit of excellence. Will I make some mistakes? Absolutely, I will. But will I get back up and dust myself off and keep it moving? Absolutely, I will. I am Coach Linda. This is 100 Days of Purpose. I will be back with some more today. I'm going to be recording day 86, I think it is, because 85 you can hear. So day 86 and 87, I'll be recording that a little bit later. And it's the fear cycle part 1 and the fear cycle part 2. That's what I'm going to be re-recording and putting up, so you guys can actually hear what I said. And I'm probably not going to say the same stuff I said, but y'all didn't hear it anyway, so y'all won't know. Anyway, I'm Coach Linda. You have a wonderful day. Be blessed, be encouraged. Know that only those that can see the invisible can achieve the impossible. So I dare you to be exactly who you were created, made, and designed to be. If you need to get in touch with me for a free consultation, go to destinedtobeyou.com and reach out to me on Facebook and email, YouTube, wherever you may be watching this video. Let me know that you want that 20-minute consultation, and I will make sure that we plan it and get you in so that we can talk about you specifically and get you where you want to go specifically. Okay. So again, you be blessed, be encouraged. Until next time, I am Coach Linda. And as I say at the end of these things, or I started saying at the end of these things, I'm out.